Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Thank you everybody for joining us on this joint webinar with SUSE and Dell Technologies. We appreciate your time and attention given to us on, I'm sure, on a very busy day for you. We're really excited to share this content with you today. Joining us today is Craig Little, and also we're going to have one of our counterparts at Dell join us, but something came up and was not able to join. Just as far as logistics go, everybody will be muted. We encourage you throughout this presentation to please type in your questions in the question module on the right-hand side on the GoToWebinar panel. If you click on questions and type it in, we'll see it, and we will have Jerson, who's on the line right now, our solutions architect, to answer them as we go through this material. We'll also have some time at the end to address those questions. Know that we will be sharing these slides after this webinar is complete, and a recording of this webinar will also be available. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the time over to our Global Alliance Director for Dell Technologies here at SUSE, Landon Hale, who will provide a quick introduction. Landon.
Thank you, Aaron. We really appreciate all of our watchers and listeners and taking the time to hear about the Dell and SUSE solutions enabling edge problem solving. The Dell and SUSE have been partnered for over 20 years, and our partnership spans multiple areas where SUSE products are available via the Dell reselling arm partner software. They are available to be attached as you're buying a server. Dell is using some of our products internally to standardize the operating systems within their own products and on many other fronts. And those continue to grow. So we're very happy to be able to highlight our different solutions here that we've been working on for the last couple of years that combine some critical products SUSE brings to the game: enterprise class Linux and enterprise class container management solutions, as well as making those very secure. And so very happy to introduce Craig Lytle and my solutions architect, Jerson Guevara, to tell you more about that. Craig, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Landon. I appreciate the introduction there. So what we're going to talk about, as you can tell by the title of the slide that you have in front of you there, and hopefully you all can see that, is the edge is upon us. And it is a kind of a fun thing to really kind of talk about what we've got going on. And so this is just a quick speaker slide. Yeah, I got myself there in the middle. Gerson is going to be joining us for some of the Q&A pieces. Do feel free to send those questions out during the presentation here. I love to get those questions and make sure that we're covering the content that you are looking for, and we're answering your questions and we're getting those things taken care of. So we're gonna dig in on what we're presenting today. The first one, I'm going to start with just a couple of statistics, just to kind of build some context on why we're talking about edge and how important we see edge moving forward. It is one of those things that 75% of the data generated for your enterprise is going to be coming from sources outside the data center. Whether those are things coming off your manufacturing floor, whether those are environmental sort of things that you're picking up, these sorts of things are going to be impacting the data that you're using and the data that's going to be used to help move your company down the road. But it's going to be coming from outside of that data center. So how do we build that? How do we manage that? How do we architect it? Because the next statistic really goes, this is going to be difficult to take on unless you're approaching it through some good technology. And that statistic is edge computing will be 4 times larger than the cloud is today by 2025. And, you know, frankly, we are, you know, in the middle, or we're at the end of 2022, moving to 2023. 2025 is not that far down the road. So these are pieces that really led us to this concept of edge is important. Edge is something that we need to figure out how to manage. And we have at SUSE. We've got a handful of solutions to really help you build the edge and manage the edge as you see it being part of your organization. And so with those statistics, I kind of want to give just a hair of a history lesson here. For those of you that have been around for a little while, mainframes, mini computers, that data was much more structured. It was one of those concepts that it was, it was in the data center. It was the pinnacle of compute. It was those core pieces. It was only used for a small amount of the data processing in an organization. A lot of data processing prior to the time of mainframe was done on pencil, paper, those sorts of things. But the mainframe really pulled that all in, very much core component, very, very centralized. It had to live in that data center. Client server came along where you got PCs that all of a sudden started to spread out through the organizations. They got networked, they got collapsed, and it became much more of that client server sort of thing. And that was good stuff. Virtualization came in, made it even better, though we still are pulling things really living in that data center. That's where all the databases lived. It really still was that core centralized type of IT functionality. And then the cloud. The cloud has moved and allowed us to take things out of our own data center and move it off-prem. But we're still in that same concept. And virtualization was really the piece that allowed the cloud components to happen. That was that core technology innovation that worked on that piece. But we're still working on a lot of the same principles that the cloud really is just an extension of your data center. Still a lot of the same kinds of controls, same types of software, things of that nature. But frankly, with the advent of containers and Kubernetes and some of those pieces, we're seeing that move and change a little bit more. And those innovations, those pieces of technology have really allowed us to look at edge in a very different way. And edge is one of those things where we really are building off all of these historical components and moving more towards event-driven types of components, lightweight types of architectures. Sometimes it's low-code, no-code types of solution sets. And with the edge pieces, we are able to bring in all of that data, kind of like we talked about in those statistics, from outside of the data center, and allow that data to be combined and merged with the data coming in from the data centers and those core databases and core applications to allow the business to make decisions even easier and more impactful, because we now get to pull in all of those pieces. So we really are moving towards this new era of compute, that we are calling the edge. It's a different animal than what we've had in the past. So that's something that we need to kind of look for. Some of the innovation that's bringing forward this edge comment or this edge compute is this concept of autonomous vehicles, industrial robotics, drones, UAV pieces, smart grid pieces. And a lot of it has to do with the ability to have these small compute components out in the environment, pulling that data in that we care about, and pulling things in that we want to use to make decisions on. Because that's at the end of the day what the edge is all about. Can I use this technology and these innovations in a way to make my life easier, my life better, the company more efficient, things of that nature. But what we're seeing is this concept of IoT or Internet of Things. The numbers of devices globally are radically ramping up from where we're at today to what we're seeing down the road. But all of these IoT devices have some very, very specific needs. And this is part of the components at the edge that we need to pay attention to. And so if we start taking a look at autonomous vehicles. What does that mean to the compute that's running in that vehicle? I need the power to run it. So potentially with the autonomous vehicles, I need lots of little devices dumping into a central device. Industrial robots, it's really a matter of scale because I want thousands of them potentially in my organization. But I also potentially need the technology to support this concept of these devices may not always be connected. But I may also need some reduced latency in them because with the autonomous vehicle and robotics, I need those computers to respond immediately. And oh yeah, security. Security becomes a very critical piece because do you really want somebody hacking your car while you're driving it? Or somebody coming in and hacking your industrial robots and building new products, or more so wrecking the products that you're trying to build? Smart grid. Do you want somebody being able to hack the meter on the side of your house and turn off your power? Things of that nature, we need to start looking at the security pieces. Previously, with a lot of the other components, these computers were locked behind significant security from a physical security perspective. The edge is really driving having these compute resources out in the wild, not really protected by those data center type of walls. And then it's scale. You look at, we talked about the industrial robotics. At that point, you're talking hundreds to thousands of them in an organization. When we start talking smart grid for a power company, guess what? They're managing hundreds of thousands of meters on the sides of houses, potentially. So there's a lot of things that are driving these edge applications and the technology requirements for those. At the end of the day, the goal is to provide value to the organization. And us as IT, we need to understand how do we allow those pieces in to provide that value while still being able to manage those. And so some of that is these challenges that we have. Consistent platform. How do I deal with the fact that I may have hundreds of thousands of devices, all of them with different, potentially different pieces, different operating systems, things of that nature, but I need to build this foundation from the very beginning to have an approach of that consistent platform. Security, privacy, compliance, huge issues like we just talked about. And the complexity of the edge use cases. Because while data center stuff gets very complex when you start integrating all of the various systems and the data elements and things of that nature, now if you start adding into it this challenge of scale out at the edge, it becomes huge. So this is something to kind of keep in mind as we are looking at the edge solution sets. And so here's just a quick math demonstration of how you can get to huge amounts of scale when looking at edge solution sets. Because from simple math, if I had 15,000 locations, you look at a lot of our retail organizations, things of that nature, you can easily get to 15,000 locations and devices per site. When you start looking at what you can do from that IoT perspective, these devices could be as simple as thermometers, as simple as counters, things of that nature. All of a sudden, 500 devices is very reasonable number of things that you're adding in that you have to manage. And then doing that simple math, we're at 7.5 million devices. It's amazing how fast this scale grows when you start looking at these edge solution sets. And so it begs for a number of key questions. How do I get deployments done? How do I deploy 7.5 million devices and keep all of those devices running? Because things die, things break. How do I deploy those? How do I orchestrate them? How do I ensure that I can send a new device out to a remote location, have it fired up, and come online, get all of its proper config, be prepared to do what it needs to do at that location? How do I do that in a good way? How do I manage the operating systems on these devices? There are some in that IoT type of design may not have much to manage from an operating system, but that becomes part of the overall challenge. How do I get that device to do what it's supposed to do in a secure fashion, easy to manage, and being able, the final question there, being able to manage that at scale? Because like I said, it's pretty quick that you go, oh my Lord, this is going to be a big challenge. And it gets there very, very quickly. Because all of a sudden you go from, in this example, 15,000 locations, and you may have only had 3, 4, 5 devices at those locations. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm going to add temperature sensors to all of the refrigerators and freezers, and I'm going to add sensors for all the robots. And so we know what they're doing, and I've got each robot's going to add 15 other sensors that need to report in. And then I've got this and that, and I've got security pieces that need to report in. And all of a sudden you're at 500 in a heartbeat. So these questions are what we are trying to solve as part of our overall solution set. And this is one where we've been working with our customers for a while. And we've talked about some of these pieces, but it's that scale challenge of how do I manage all of these devices? And we've got customers that have this kind of scale in their devices, and we're helping them manage things today with the overall solution set. But you also always have to have that eye to security, like we talked about, pretty critical on some of these devices. You don't want those robots or those cars being hacked and compromised, because now you're bringing in safety issues and things of that nature. We have those mature solutions available today. And what's kind of fun is when we start looking at what we've been delivering from a management and orchestration solution, it's a lot of these pieces are very, very well suited to this edge use case. And so let's talk a little bit more about defining what the edge is, because it's a topic, or it's a definition that gets bantered about quite a bit. But we've got a couple of definitions that help us categorize these pieces. And these are just SUSE created definitions. But as you see, we'll talk through them. You'll get the kind of the grasp here. So the first part is we have near edge. Near edge pieces are those devices that are much closer to the data center. And when we look at them from a scale perspective, it's tens to hundreds. It's not making huge impacts on that scale concept, but it is something that we do want to pay attention to for how do we manage these pieces. The near edge typically has faster network access, more consistent network access, things of that nature. And so that's one that we want to pay attention to from the near edge piece. Moving into the far edge, we are moving further out from the data center, and we're looking at scale that we're growing. But this is oftentimes similar types of devices as we might see in the data center. We might still see servers. We might still see some of those, the client server types of solution sets out here at the far edge. Though from a networking point of view, when we start stepping into that far edge, it may be more intermittent as to the availability of network or the availability of those far edge devices to reach back into the data center or to report data into the data center. And then finally, the tiny edge. The tiny edge is really one where it is IoT itself, that true definition of Internet of Things. And this is where you may or may not have operating systems to manage things of that nature, because these may be really, really simple devices that all they're reporting back is the temperature, or all they're reporting back is the wind speed on top of a windmill. These kinds of things where you need that data because you're using that data to make business decisions, but they're coming in from all of these types of devices. And so each one of these sections or definitions of edge require a little bit different solution set in order to manage them effectively. So that's kind of how we've carved up what the edge looks like. And so let's talk about what runs in those places, in those edge categories. So the first one, near edge. This is really dominated today by things like telco, media communication sorts of pieces. This is higher speed networking. If you're using your cell phone, you're hitting some of those near edge devices as you go through the radio access network. And so that's kind of a good definition of that near edge. Branch office servers might fall into that category as well, because again, higher speed networking, somewhat of a facility to put those devices. Then we step into the far edge, and the far edge is where it gets a little less secure, because we are stepping into some of the industrial pieces. You're looking at oil and gas and some of the energy pieces. Retail is a great example of that far edge, where you may have compute resources sitting in the back room of a retail store, or when you've done the McDonald's drive-through and you see the server equipment or the networking equipment sitting up on the wall. It's those kinds of things that you can kind of imagine for that far edge. And you're going to see that the networking components there become a little more intermittent. And then the tiny edge is right out there at the endpoint itself. And this is where the networking, it may be down to cellular. You may be doing radio type of networking for those devices to get that data back in. We talked about that concept of there may not be an operating system to manage out there at that tiny edge with the microcontroller enabled sensors, things of that nature. Actuators, do I want to open a door or not open a door, or redirect product on a conveyor, things of that nature out at that tiny edge. So we've got all of these pieces, and now you've kind of got an understanding of what's running in each of these categories. And as we've talked to those pieces, the solution set becomes a little different for each one of those components. And so at SUSE, we break out the solution set into two pieces, really. So we've got what we call the cloud native edge, where we are using Kubernetes. This is on the verge of or not on the verge, it's on using very, very new innovative solution sets. But there's a lot of you guys and a lot of enterprises that are stuck on the classic infrastructure, where it is closer to what you've had in the data center. It's operating systems, it's servers, it might be little micro servers, some of the little Dell Optiplex boxes, for example, where you've got these smaller devices that you may be having out at that edge, but it's managed more along the lines of a traditional style of management, operating system with applications running on top of it. These sorts of things. But what's awesome is we have solutions that run across both of those technology sets, the traditional edge and the cloud native edge. And we've got some great, great pieces there. And so this slide we're talking about on the traditional edge, we've got some things that we're doing with the operating system with SLE Micro, for example, that gives you an operating system that's much more secure than our standard Linux types of deployments. And it does that through some new technology where we have read-only file systems. It's a definition of an immutable operating system design. And then we've got SUSE Manager, which is our Linux management toolset that allows us to go manage those at scale and out away from the data center. And the mature aspect of this is a solution that we've had for easily 10 years, where we've been using it to manage cash registers. And cash registers in that retail space is that epitome of edge. It's been there for quite some time, and you've got hundreds of devices in a larger retail location that needs to be managed. They're not sitting in a data center, they're out in the middle of the floor, so you need to have a security. I need to be able to swap them. They need to have the epitome of uptime, because nothing frustrates a shopper more than having the cash registers down, and the business as well. So we have good mature solution sets on that traditional edge design. On the cloud native edge, again, we've got some great solutions in our Rancher Kubernetes management tool, our K3S, which is our Kubernetes distribution that was designed as lightweight from the very, very beginning. They saw a need to have that lightweight deployment, persistent storage in a hyper-converged style of storage, meaning I can have a cluster of devices and take that of running the Kubernetes cluster, and I can take the storage, pull it together in a hyper-converged design, and have that persistent storage out at the edge. And so if you're looking at that more innovative Kubernetes container-based front, we've got a great management story from those pieces as well. So we've got some cool components, and we've got customers that are using this. And so one of the first is that automotive edge. I got a animation here I need to clean out. From the automotive edge perspective, we have partnered with Electrobit. We are providing them some core Linux components for their automotive grade safety Linux. And this is really kind of that definition of the tiny edge. We're pushing pieces out there. It is all of those sensors, all of those pieces to be able to run a car quickly, effectively, and safely running on Linux. And so this is one of those first edge use cases where we've been partnering with Electrobit for a couple of years now to build this automotive grade Linux. It's some very fun stuff. And then BMW, another car company where they are using it in their manufacturing. And they're using our solution set, and this is really that far edge. So that middle ground, we're a ways away from the data center, but we still have networking. We still have the ability to manage these devices. But something that we're achieving here is that zero downtime and zero downtime maintenance. So zero downtime is awesome, but if you can't maintain the environment, it doesn't do you a lot of good, because you need that security component. I need to be able to patch those vulnerabilities. I need to be able to pull those things together without taking my robots offline, things of that nature. And so this is one where we're working with BMW to deliver that edge management capability to keep their factory floors moving forward, being able to move data through their environments. It's a pretty cool solution set that we have working with these guys. Another one, and we talked about that classic retail edge use case. How do I manage my cash registers? And Home Depot is another one of our customers where we've been working with them for a number of years now on helping them manage their edge environments. And this is one where, again, we have a very mature solution set that allows them to be effective in managing their technology out at the edge. And again, that far edge definition of what part of the edge, what category of the edge this solution set falls into. And then Deutsche Telekom, part of the T-Mobile brand, they are using our pieces to manage their near edge. And so they're using this to manage their radio access network. They're also using our solution set to provide some of the user-facing technology. And this is one of those where, again, we are providing them the technology to be able to manage their core business, moving data off of phones to other phones. That's the key element that they need to be able to do here. And with them, one of the big things that we are helping them achieve is being able to do this utilizing open standards. And that's one of the key elements of SUSE is we are very focused on the open source technologies. And we've been doing this for quite some time, but we see open source as where innovation is happening today. And so we're absolutely committed to supporting our customers utilizing the open source technology and open standards. And Deutsche Telekom is absolutely capitalizing on that for their edge solution set. So we talked about the traditional edge. We've talked a little bit about the cloud native edge. What we're seeing talking with our customers like Home Depot, BMW, Deutsche Telekom is all of those guys are really a mix of these needs. They have traditional edge components and they have cloud native edge components. And so what we're finding is more and more of our customers really are falling into that blended use case in the middle of this Venn diagram. The beautiful thing is at SUSE, we have solutions to fit both sides of that, and pieces of them help you move from one side, meaning the traditional edge, out to cloud native. And there are some consistencies of solution across even the traditional to cloud native. And so if you remember back to one of the earlier slides, we talked about consistency of environment is a key component to being able to manage the edge effectively. So there's a lot going on out at the edge, and if you can keep some things consistent, it allows you to run those pretty effectively. So as you see kind of a recap of the solution components, SUSE Linux Enterprise becomes a core component on both sides. And that's really because of the what we call SLE Micro, which is that immutable operating system that runs spectacular for those edge use cases, because it helps bring in an ease of management, so that ability to keep things running from a patching vulnerability kind of perspective, while also minimizing a lot of the attack vectors from a security point of view. So easier to manage, higher level of security becomes a great combination for these pieces. But even traditional Linux is something that we can manage on that traditional side. And then we can deal with it whether they're virtual machines, bare metal, what have you. SUSE Manager becomes the primary management component on that traditional edge. Though Kubernetes comes into play with one of our unique solutions called Harvester, which is virtualization managed by Kubernetes. And that becomes a significant solution component when we start looking at those blended use cases, where I have a portion of it running in that cloud native containerized design, but I may have some technical debt that I need virtualization to help support. I've got a retail customer that I'm working with that is that concept. They have the bulk of their endpoint retail solution is cloud native, but they've got a handful of pieces that still are running as virtual machines that they haven't got converted over into that cloud native space. So guess what? We can do that sort of solution by having virtualization managed by Kubernetes running alongside of those traditional cloud native containerized workloads, and all working together out at that remote edge and being able to be managed effectively out at that edge. And so we are seeing that there is a roadmap, that there is a transformation of moving from traditional edge into the cloud native edge. And we've got the tools and the solution sets to help you get there as you move down this journey. And it's one that everybody's in a little bit different space, but the beautiful part is it becomes a consistent solution set across those two pieces as you move from the traditional edge out to the cloud native edge. And here's a recap of those solution components. Core operating systems with the SUSE Manager components, moving into our cloud native solution sets, where we've got Longhorn, which is our storage component, K3S is our Kubernetes component, Rancher becomes our Kubernetes management solution. All of these pieces really stack up to a solid edge management solution set that allows you to go manage your environments at the kind of scale, that 7.5 million devices kind of scale that you're going to need to manage. And so I'm excited to dig in a little bit on what we're doing with Dell in this particular case. We've partnered with Dell on a number of joint solutions, and it's really fun to partner and work with the hardware side of it as well as the software side of it. And Gerson, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of talk about these specific programs and solutions that we have with Dell.
Yeah, thank you so much, Craig. Thank you so much for explaining the different use cases and how customers are deploying the edge applications, containerized applications in different type of market and verticals. So with Dell Technologies, I've been working with multiple Dell Technologies business unit, and one of them is Edge. Is Power Edge. It is telecom. You could see on the screen one of our stacks, which is primarily Dell Technologies Power Edge servers with SUSE Linux Enterprise Micro. On top of that, K3S and Rancher. And once Rancher is installed, you will have the ability to install K3S downstream single nodes or multi-nodes with your modern containerized applications. We are using...
It's a spectacular solution, Gerson. It really is when you start having that full combination. I'm excited to work with Dell on this.
Yes, definitely. We are also have the ability to add Grafana and Prometheus for monitoring, as well as that scenario where you mentioned that there are like thousands of applications that need to be deployed. We have a fleet, and it is integrated by default with Rancher. So a fleet will allow you to install the application in thousands of Kubernetes clusters. Just by organizing them in groups, you can do all your GitHub repositories and configure it in a way that it will be easier to manage and control those thousands of single deployments.
So that retail use case that I talked about, where you have the bulk of the solution running in a Kubernetes environment, Fleet would allow me to manage those at that kind of scale, where I may have 10,000 clusters that all need to look and work the same. Fleet would allow me to take care of those quickly and easily.
That's pretty much how it works. It is very flexible at the hardware level as well. If you can click on SUSE certified program, we can see hundreds of different type of Power Edge servers that are certified. One example of that are those XR11s and XR12. Those are the one of the latest and greatest servers that Dell Technologies is offering for edge use cases, telecom use cases, anything from the front-end type of deployment. You can see the bulletin which describe different type of configurations. So if you see that in SUSE certified, SUSE Linux Enterprise Server is certified, just so you know, SUSE Linux Enterprise Micro inherits all those certifications.
Perfect.
So we are talking that there are thousands of different type of configurations that are supported, that are verified for Power Edge servers that maybe you own them already and you would like to repurpose them for edge type of deployment. Or if you are looking to buy some new ones, we have the description in the reference architecture with the description of the components, as well as the diagram that shows how all the components are connected with each other. We wanted to go a step beyond that. We wanted to show you how easy it is to install Slim Micro, how easy it is to install K3S. It's just only 50 megabytes that it downloads really quickly, and then you have a full Kubernetes ready to use, ready to deploy your containerized applications, just with a couple of clicks using the Rancher UI, you will be able to deploy those downstream K3s, single node or multi-node Kubernetes clusters. So it's definitely a great and easy to use a stack that will invite you to please test it, POC it. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And those are the, go ahead.
I was just going to say this document, because you had showed me these documents ahead of delivering this, and it really is a very complete set of documents that it walks you through all of the pieces, walks you through the deployment of it. How do I get these pieces into my environment, and and the bill of materials. That was one of those pieces where I'm going, this is awesome. What
Yeah, we
do
are giving
I
you an
need?
example or how or what kind of hardware was tested. Of
Yep.
course, we can optimize the bill of material during the professional services engagements that we can do. We can give you a more optimized for your business requirement. But yeah, definitely.
But me as a customer, I could walk in and look at this white paper and be able to go, I get it now. I understand what it looks like. I understand the value that it's providing me and what pieces I might need to pull this together. And while this list may not be perfect for every customer, it's a spectacular starting point. And it gives me a good idea of what things I need to look for and what things I may need to ask questions about. Because I may go, I need more nodes in my downstream clusters. Well, how does that need to change things? And like you
And that
said,
is
the professional services is a great starting point to be able to help fill in the answers to those additional questions.
exactly. We wanted to make sure you were by reading this document, you will be able to connect all the dots and have a clear view of how the network layout and component layouts will be connected to. So those are the two reference architectures that we wanted to highlight for front-end solutions. Now the next question that we would like to ask is basically where are you going to create those customized containerized applications? Where can you test it? What kind of Dell Technologies solution can you use to develop these containerized applications, customized containerized applications? So we have been working with Dell VxRail, which is one of the most important HCIs, so Dell technology. And when we tested SUSE Rancher, K3s, and Slim Micro, and this stack, you can use it to create your customized containerized application, to test it, to test fleet, make sure that the, the the applications are deployed the way you want them before you do that at the edge components in production. So this could be one of the use cases. Of course, you can run in those containerized applications in the backend, like VxRail, um, in a server and client type of architecture. Those containerized applications that hold the server will be doing data analytics, artificial intelligence back in the data center, while at the edge you may be collecting data or just doing few tasks depending on your business requirement. And that information, those logs are sent back to the data center for processing. So the LVX Rail HCI is available for those kind of use cases. We are also working with Dell PowerFlex. We have the ability to use PowerFlex CSI driver, so we can those containerized applications can store data right at the storage. It's very easy to install.
And
Basically,
the PowerFlex storage is managed via is it a containerized application? But there's a management application that you can hit with via API to be able to manage those pieces quickly and effectively, correct?
right. So PowerFlex is a storage, right? You can have your SCSI volumes, NFS. But what we have done, we integrated the CSI driver in the Rancher Marketplace, which just with a couple of clicks, that application will have the ability to store data right at the PowerFlex. And we are planning to do is to provide support for K3S. In case you own a PowerFlex, you would like to use it for those type of use cases. Or if you're planning to buy a new one, then those kind of requirements we can meet as well. And VxRail and PowerFlex can be solved via Apex. So we are planning to work with Apex to provide support for the same stack. So it will be SUSE Rancher, K3S, and Slim Micro in different type of configurations.
But
and
all in a private cloud kind of configuration.
That is correct.
Awesome.
In a private cloud type of configuration, and we understand that data protection is important for all of you. We want to provide data protection for namespaces and persistent volume claims of K3S. So far with Power Protect, we have tested this. It is working. We are in the middle of the project, and it's also coming soon as well.
That's exciting. Those are exciting prospects coming soon. I'm excited to see those come together.
Yeah, definitely. So what other things we are doing with Dell globally? So with other teams, we are also working on SUSE Rancher and RK2. In case that you would like to use RK2 for the edge, that is also possible for government type of high security containerized solutions.
Correct.
So we already support that in the back end, where we will like to show you that these joint solutions are also available for all of you. So you can see we have joint solution with PowerFlex that can also be solved via Apex. We have another Apex joint solution, which is based on VxRail. We are working with the multiple teams to show that basically DevOps basically enables automation on premise, and all that automation can be used on RK2, can be used on K3S, and or joint end customers can take advantage of all these joint solutions for the benefit.
Perfect. Just real quick, I want to kind of differentiate RKE2 versus K3S, because at SUSE we actually have 3 different Kubernetes solutions today. One of them being RKE, Rancher Kubernetes Engine, and that was the starting point of Kubernetes for this overall solution set. And then we recognized that there was a need for a lighter weight Kubernetes. And that's where K3S came out. And it really was designed to be that lightweight. And I think a lot of it was being driven by, I want to run it on a Raspberry Pi. I want to run it on a little single board, tiny computer, and really make it work for that edge use case. But then RKE2 has come out, and I get a lot of customers going, what's the difference? Which one should I run here? And RKE2, and you talked about it, is that more secure kind of approach to Kubernetes. And it does it through a couple of things. One of them, it's a FIPS 140 certified crypto library. It is being used by that Kubernetes component, and it is doesn't use Docker. So it's using Containerd as its container engine. And so those are kind of 2 interesting pieces that make RKE different, or RKE2 different from RKE. Now keep in mind, all 3 of those are Kubernetes engines. They've got some interesting capability differences, but there are some customers that I see that run K3S in the data center because they love its lightweight aspect, and they love the fact that it's doesn't use etcd to store a lot of its Kubernetes specific data. It's using a lightweight database. And so it brings with it different high availability types of requirements.
And
so
that
just
is
keep
exactly
in mind.
what we would like to show. It's flexible, that
Exactly.
you can mix it between RKE, RK2, and K3S depending on your business requirement.
On what those requirements are. The best part is we got you covered. We've got a Kubernetes solution to fit your needs. That's the best part.
Yeah, and for RKE, we have that one that says protect your SUSE Rancher, manage Kubernetes workload with Power Protect. That one is on RKE. So you can see the list of all different SUSE Kubernetes distributions to cover any of your business requirement. All of those joint solutions and many more are part of the info hub, delltechnologies.com. That's the link right there where it says
Right on the
SUSE
bottom there. Yep.
Containers as a Service. And also working with Dell marketing global teams to start populating Dell.com with SUSE material. So you are going to be able to start seeing SUSE in many places in the next quarter. So that is also coming soon.
Very good. Thank you, Gerson. I appreciate all of that info. I learned a few things. Like I said, when you handed me those links, I'm going, oh, this is fun stuff. So I would like to kind of open it up for questions. If you guys have questions that have come along over the time, Gerson, have we seen any questions coming through?
No, not yet. I have not seen any questions. Aaron, have you?
We have not received any questions yet.
Oh
So
man, I must have done a decent job then of covering the topic.
I think
But
so.
Yeah, that was a great presentation, Craig. Thank you so much.
thank you guys. I want to thank everybody for their time today, and do take a look at the links that are in the presentation here as it relates to the containerized and edge solution set, and go hit both sides. Go take a look at SUSE.com as well as the Dell.com for these fun solutions. And the best part is, go take a look at what you're doing with the edge and go start digging in, because frankly, it will only provide value to the business, and getting ahead of the curve is far better than being hit in 2024 going, oh crap, I've got 7.5 million devices I got to figure out how to manage. So go get started today.
Exactly. Well, once again, as Craig and Jerson had mentioned, thank you for joining us. As I mentioned on the front end of this call, we will make the slides and also the recording of this webinar available to everybody. And we try to have these joint webinars with Dell Technologies at least once a quarter. So be paying attention to your emails or go to our events webpage and it should be there. So other than that, thank you everybody, and we will see you next time.
Appreciate it. Bye now.
Bye. Thank you.